Quick run through of your thoughts. Starmer is ridiculous, making no obvious attempt to answer any question. That one's unsigned. Mike writes, "Oh my God, she's an absolute gift to Labour." That's from Sutton. Liam says, "Brexit freedoms. Has she taken up stand-up?" It did get the biggest laughs of the day. James also, like a lot of you, asks what Brexit freedoms. Alison says, "Finally, it feels like Kemi is performing here much better today." Whereas Neil in Skipton writes, "A stronger show from Kemi. Keir's repeated answers week after week are starting to be a big issue." Loz says, "Keir is dead on the money. She wants all the shiny things without the work necessary to get them. Talk about entitled." Kieran says, "My God, Kemi is dreadful." Another unsigned text says, "How is Badenoch still this awful?" When the whole of Parliament, Ollie points out, starts laughing at the concept of Brexit freedoms, maybe that's the clue to Keir Starmer that he can start approaching the issue of closer ties with the EU. Ben says, "I thought that was pretty poor from Starmer. He needs to give proper answers and not repeat the same lines. Kemi was doing well until she mentioned Brexit benefits. I'm getting tired of Labour's inability to answer questions like normal human beings." And Mike says, "Brilliant finale. Starmer might be getting the hang of this, but did he really say talking our country down?" Ugh. That was Mike's word. I've just sort of worked, not mine. And I have come to the conclusion that, rather like Rishi Sunak says, Dave, Kemi Badenoch is just not very good at politics. Her delivery is just so poor that even when she may have a valid point, it sounds like a child challenging their parents' authority. So, I mean, from the text to score draw, I would say, if it wasn't for that Brexit freedoms line, I thought she possibly had the upper hand this week for the first time.
Yeah, I thought that was actually one of Kemi's strongest performances so far. I think as leader, she has struggled with Prime Minister's questions since she became leader a couple of months ago now. But that, I think, her argument was pretty strong. I think she succeeded well in what really is her job now, to pick holes in government policy, in government arguments, and talk about how this government are failing people, in her words, accusing the government of broken promises. The nice soundbite I liked was that the budget is a body blow to business. That, I think, is going to be the soundbite that she needs to take her through for what is the final Prime Minister's questions of the year. She needed something to sort of sell for that, and I think that did work. Talking about winter fuel, talking about legitimate criticisms, people trying to get pension credit. The government is struggling to get through all of those claims in time. So many people are waiting to hear back, and obviously we're going into Christmas now. We're going into people turning on their heating territory, despite a bit of a warm snap.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. It is when it gets cold, and for anyone confused by the figures, the number of people eligible who don't currently claim it wouldn't just get the winter fuel allowance. They would
have to claim pension credit first.
So they actually would be quite a large sum of money if everybody eligible for it were to claim it.
They never all claim it. That's the case in every government, and they've been trying to get people to try and claim it and up the upkeep to go up. But they're saying now that, according to government figures, 700,000 people have yet to register for pension credit that would be eligible for that. That's a lot of people, a lot of money. A legitimate argument from Kemi Badenoch is, well, actually, if you do this, and if you did pay everybody... Did you just laugh at Dudu?
No, not at all. I'm laughing at the slightly Kafkaesque nature of the politics. So if the policy is implemented and the campaign to encourage people to sign up for
then it won't make you any money.
Then it actually becomes a legitimate, a sort of odd exercise in futility.
Yeah, it just goes back to the argument a lot of people saying, which is it's all about ideology. This is all a Labour sort of idea to try and show that they are still being tough and they're still appealing to that right-wing centre argument.
Or, just to think out loud, ideology is not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on the ideology. This is a shift of money from people who don't need it to people who do. So, in fact, even if it didn't save any money, ideologically, for people who believe in a redistribution of wealth, which would be traditionally a Labour position, it's defensible.
And it's the same idea for VAT on private schools.
Bingo.
It's an argument that Labour want to be making.
But they're not making it in the context of winter fuel, because they're actually hoping to have their cake and eat it. They're hoping that they will make
they will make a bit of money and they can put it into other things, and that's absolutely a legitimate argument to make. But when it's not raising money, that's another bat for the opposition to hit you with, another stick to go after, another hole for Kemi Badenoch to accurately pick into.
Yes.
The problem is, like Keir Starmer said, and I think he was strong on this today, when he said, well, actually, you guys have talked about winter fuel. You've talked about means testing it before. You said this was a policy that you would support until I decided to bring it in. Completely legitimate argument there. But yes, she didn't lose her cool this time. I think she was a lot more professional.
It's much better
I know
when
it's
she
more
does.
entertaining when she does.
Resign! He should resign! I don't think she'll do that again.
I know, but
not for 3 years.
she
if
didn't.
She's still there.
Yeah, look, she went on some serious policies. I think talking about the national insurance rise and how it's going to hit hospices. Again, not a very topical argument, but something that's been discussed in Westminster quite a lot recently. Keir Starmer did admit just then that the decision on whether to bail out hospices from that national insurance rise is a decision that still hasn't been taken in government, and now it's not going to be taken till next year. That's going to worry a lot of hospices and a lot of businesses that are incredibly worried about that. I think, the arguments from callers about Keir Starmer not answering the questions, legitimate. I do think that Kemi Badenoch's questioning is a bit odd.
It's quite hard to answer a question sometimes if you're not quite sure what it is.
Well, exactly, and especially, did he talk to the Chancellor about the jobs tax hitting them? It's it's a question you can't really answer. It's a bit of a silly, nonsensical question. I thought Keir Starmer was strongest at the very end there. That finale was excellent. We're only just getting started. Here's a list of all the things I've done in government so far. We were only just getting started. No matter what the blockers say, we're carrying on going. That's a good way to round off, I think, a year for Keir Starmer, where he's not been good enough for, I don't think.
I'm channeling Rishi Sunak, of all people, when he accused her of talking the country down. That used to be Rishi Sunak's line.
Well, that's the job of the opposition. You've got to pick holes in government policy and you've got to say what you
No, he said that to her.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's
yes.
a legitimate argument to make. Fine, if that's what you want to argue about. But actually, I think it's the job of the opposition to say, exactly what's going on. I do think there are people in government that are tin-eared about the budget and how it's landed and business. I think that's going to be the story of 2025, is how badly this budget is going to go down and whether the economy starts to take a downturn, whether it'll happen or not. 2 months of 0.1 negative growth. If we do see people start to lose their jobs, unemployment at the moment staying static, but businesses genuinely really fearful about this national insurance hike and what it's going to mean for them, they are going to start taking decisions. And if we start seeing that come January, February, Keir Starmer's going to be in trouble.
Indeedy. A couple of Daves have been in touch. One says, I did laugh at doo-doo. And another one says, it's not futile to direct money at those who need it. I think you might have sent that before we discussed it a little, Dave, because it could be another example of Labour getting it right and wrong at the same time. So they would be comfortable on one level with the idea of money being taken away from people who don't need it and directed to people who do need it, but they've defended the policy as a money-raising exercise. And if it turned out not to be that, then there would be room for some valid criticism, although a couple of people are wondering whether these figures are actually correct. I think they are, but because the pensions credits are means tested, some of the people who may be eligible for them will be getting really small amounts, even though it pushes them over the line into also getting the winter fuel allowance. So there may be a little bit more number crunching there. Some people, I think this is at you, not me, cross with us for using Christian names rather than.
Sorry,
I don't think I do that.
No,
do I? No, that's all you. That's all on you. Well, you want to watch that. Keir said that. No, Kemi. No, Starmer. No, Badenoch. But the Brexit line. We can't. Well, let's do Waspi first. That was really weird. That was one of the weirdest things. I thought, well, here we go. And then, as I've said, I think she did better than usual subsequently. But the Waspi line was quite strange.
So she said she accused the government of playing politics over Waspi women, and it's an argument I think is legitimate. There are around 80 Labour MPs that have been pictured with these big placards saying we will give the Waspi women the justice they deserve, and now the government have said actually no. It's obviously this wasn't something that was campaigned on in the last general election. No. It's the one before. It was in the 2019 manifesto, not the 2024 manifesto. I don't think Keir Starmer was ever going to do it, but he is one of those people that said he will do it. Liz Kendall has repeatedly said she would. Doesn't it damage trust in politics when they say they're not going to do it?
I don't know how easy it would be if someone handed you a placard and said, "Can I take your photo with this?" to say no.
No, it's quite. Well, don't go to the protest, mate.
Well,
don't go and show your
support.
Because
you've got 4 pictures in the newspapers
sorry,
today, people holding up the placards post-2019 manifesto.
Exactly.
But then, of course, what she had to do at the end was state that this is what we have. Not only did we bring the policy in, but we also haven't had any intention ever of compensating any of these women. Therefore, you agree with us all along. Yeah,
and the governments of previous have never committed to this compensation for Waspi women, and there's not a lot of sympathy, I think, in government for this. And like Rachel Reeves' argument was today, most people were aware that these changes were happening, and some obviously weren't, but actually it would be unfair to give everybody a blanket payment costing £10.5 billion, and it's not great value for money for the taxpayer. And when you're talking about £22 billion black hole, do you really want to make it a £32 billion black hole?
I think it was Sue in Sheffield who reminded us that you can hold two opinions at the same time. It was a big misstep, a big muff by Labour, but also the right decision.
Yeah, and also I think, Kemi Badenoch is right to say that actually is this not another broken promise for Labour? That's a legitimate political argument, but she does open herself up to that conversation about, well, if you really care so much about it, why don't you commit to paying that £10 billion? Should we discuss Brexit?
I find it fascinating, but I think I find it more fascinating than is either normal or healthy. But when
Brexit?
does it stop? Yeah, I mean, because you've got a massive majority in the House now for Labour, so the laughter is not emblematic of anything profoundly significant. But they must know now that if she was pushed to describe what these Brexit freedoms are, she'd be rendered even more ridiculous than usual.
Sure, yeah.
But she still thinks, probably correctly, the Mail certainly went mad this weekend, didn't they? And that's what she's reflecting. She's essentially just parroting the Mail on Sunday front page and Boris Johnson's recent blurtings. So she still thinks it's got political heft.
I think it does have a bit of political heft because we don't know what Keir Starmer is seeking to renegotiate with the EU. We know that he wants a closer relationship. We know he wants to renegotiate that deal. We don't know what's going to be in it. He's talked repeatedly about
the renegotiation is enshrined in the deal that David Frost signed.
Yes,
it was going to come round at this point in proceedings anyway.
Yes.
That seems to be missing from some of the coverage that I've seen. It's not if he's phoned up and said, "Can I come and renegotiate?"
No,
please?
exactly.
This is what was agreed in the oven-ready. I still use that phrase. The oven-ready deal.
Yeah, it was part of that. It was a break clause saying after, I think it was 5 years, we will look at it again and see what we can do better. Completely legitimate for that. But we don't know what Keir Starmer's looking for. The EU keeps saying they want a youth mobility scheme. He's saying he doesn't want that.
It's a negotiation.
It is a negotiation, but it now should be. I've actually started, and really, we don't have any idea from what the government want in this. Number 10 this week refused to rule out the European Court of Justice having more of a say in our laws. And that was, I thought, a strange one for Keir Starmer to lean into and for number 10 to do. It's going to upset a lot of people, no matter which way he goes.
Yeah, well, it needs explaining, which is simply that if you want to trade in that space, then the court of last resort will be the court in that space, which is not our court. Yeah. If you want to sell stuff into France, then it will be the European.
But Keir Starmer's not
laws.
telling us which way he wants to go.
No, I know. But again, we learned nothing in 2016. People will be inflating all manner of balloons of bloviation without anyone having the wherewithal to pop them. But anyway, that's it for another, 3 weeks? When are we back?
That's it. I think we'll be back on the 8th of January, I think.
The 8th of January. Thank you very much indeed, Natasha Clark.